Welcome once again to Now St. Louis as we continue to discuss things going on in the community in the St. Louis area. Particularly now, we've been in this COVID-19 situation for 90 days for some people. Continued lockdowns, continued social distancing rules, trying to protect people's health has had such an immense impact on our local business community, our small businesses, and of course, on the bottom of that ladder in many regards is Black business. And we have to try and figure out a way to make sure Black small businesses and entrepreneurs still stay alive, still stay vibrant, still stay inspired to keep developing and changing and finding ways to do that. Joining me today is the executive director of the Heartland Black Chamber of Commerce, Miss Veta Jeffery. Veta, it's so good to talk to you today.
Thank you. Thank you, George, so much for having me and for covering this topic. You know, it matters a lot. So I appreciate that.
Well, as I said there, we're several months into this thing. It's had such a huge impact on small business. Can you give me an overview of how small Black business is doing in St. Louis in general?
You know, it's so difficult, George, because right now, early on when we looked at this, there was the expectation that there was a national study that went out that showed that the expectation was by the time at that point, it thought at the end of July, we were expected to lose about 35 to 45% of Black businesses nationwide. And the study came back in April and showed in April alone, 41% of Black businesses had already had to close. And so when we look at in St. Louis, we're mimicking those numbers because it's just hitting hard, and it's hitting hard for several reasons. It's hitting hard because of the challenges that were endemic to the payroll protection program. It's hitting hard because typically Black businesses don't have the amount of savings that we'd like for them to have to be able to handle a shutdown. It's hitting hard because most of the business lines of business or sectors of business that minority businesses are in are sectors that have high exposure. So for several reasons, we're struggling to make certain that we're able to stand people up and move beyond this.
Now, in many cases, when we talk about businesses closing, there's certainly a percentage of these businesses that at some point may be able to reopen. How many small Black businesses are we going to lose for good?
Yeah, so I almost didn't hear you. You said what? And looking at the businesses that we would hope not to lose for good, but there are some that have had to close shop. For example, our commercial realtors are not able to put a moratorium long enough on businesses being able to pay their rents. And so I'm still paying rent, but I'm not bringing anything in. And sooner or later, that's going to cross up. So we've had several boutiques that have had to shut down. We've had a lot of businesses. And also, I'm saying something interesting that it also hits quite naturally is our barber and beauty business. And that's such a painful situation because typically salon owners have gone in and they've taken the space that they're renting and they've completely renovated it. And now, after putting all of their personal money into making this person's spot something they could use to run their business, now they're having to walk away. And that's such an interesting dynamic because that means for them, they've invested and lost everything. But what that commercial realtor is going to do is they're going to go recruit somebody else to a spot that's already ready for that to turnkey for them, because the commercial realtor's focus is just to make certain they keep their dollars coming in.
And when we talk about our barber and our beauty business, you're talking about a great number of people who are renting space in someone else's business. You're renting a chair, and you're splitting the profits with whoever owns the barbershop or the beauty shop. And because of the social distancing, these people haven't been able to work at all. There's no way to mitigate just not going to the barber or the salon, but you can't even work from home.
No, no. And so no, there's no way to work from home. There's no way to socially distance. It's a high cash and carry business. And so there are some challenges that come along with that were indicative or challenging prior to COVID-19. Like we've been working with the cash and carry industry to help them put supports in place like long-term planning, long-term savings, retirement savings, those kinds of things. And so we're not there yet. And so even in the other issue is making certain that those types of businesses are properly licensed and properly set up. You might be working in someone's shop, the shop is properly licensed, but you're not registered yourself. So then when cities are unveiling all of their packages to give to individual business owners, you all of a sudden don't fit in line and you can't go apply for the relief funds.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is one of those areas where I think, as Black people, we need to have serious and honest conversations because, I've had the opportunity to try and support and help build entrepreneurs and businesses. And when we sit down to talk about what is the business plan and where are we moving forward, having to say to somebody like, you're just not ready to actually do this. You have no idea of all the hoops and ladders and stuff. And I don't have the time or resources to do that for you. I can invest in you, but I'm not going to invest in you if you're not even stepping to the door, understanding what it actually takes to run a business that's not going to be audited next year and shut down the year next.
Absolutely. And because of that, that's where chambers like ours can come in handy. George, we have a lot of wonderful programs because we understand that just because are a good entrepreneur and you have a great idea doesn't necessarily mean that you're business savvy or that you have all the tools necessary to survive long term in business. And here's another dynamic that's interesting. So much of business success also comes back to who your immediate circle is. And so the Black community often struggles with those relationships. Did you go to high school with wealthy people? Did you grow up in a neighborhood that had access to people who this was their natural bend every day? Are the friends that you hang out with, are those the people that are invested in building the economics around you? Chances are most people who are entrepreneurs growing up out of our communities, you hang out with people that are like you. You went to your public schools, and those schools are challenged for whatever reasons. And so you don't have within a reach the opportunities that people coming from other communities have. And so that already puts you at a disadvantage at being able to have some long-term success. And so we did a study that helped us understand what these needs were, what the gaps were, and we started building our programs around that. One of the programs that I'm most excited about is a program that sets a team of 10 professionals around our business owners. So that way, just like it takes all these professionals for a corporation to make it, it would take this for a business owner. So that person would have an attorney, an accountant, a marketing professional, an IT professional, a banker, a financial professional, an HR professional, a insurance professional, a virtual admin, and then a professional coach. And it works as a great ecosystem for us because that team of professional are also Black professionals that are working independently on their own that are jeopardized right now because of COVID-19 as well. And so it creates an opportunity for them to get paid, but they're getting paid to help stand up these businesses. So we're doing everything we can to make certain that that ecosystem is fluid enough to help as many people as we can.
Clearly, you understand as well as I do that we have a lot of people in the Black community who have the spirit, have the drive, have the know-how and the ingenuity to be great entrepreneurs and great business owners. But because of their past, they may have gotten in trouble at some point.
Yeah.
There are many roadblocks standing in the way of them being able to legitimize their life after perhaps being incarcerated or what have you. What kind of support mechanisms or kind of things can we put together to try to get these people, get their records expunged and get them on a path where they can use these skills for good?
Absolutely. Now, we want the records expunged. We don't want, there are some things that really just shouldn't be. But what we've got to get better at is helping successful companies walk alongside and mentor companies that are coming up. And the best example I can use for that I think is easy to transfer is the construction industry. So you might have someone who does have a record, who spent time and now they've served their time and now they're building their life back up. We still want them to be productive citizens and contribute to the economics that make our cities run. Well, if some of our large construction companies are willing to take some of those small contractors and allow them to be prime and let the large company be the sub, as opposed to the other way around, which is how we always do it. If it's a company that's worthy and is ready, then that allows us to change building wealth in the Black community, because it's now giving this business an opportunity to be able to stand up financially when we've not done that before. And that takes some great partnership, some great leadership, understanding what are the right projects where we can handle doing those types of things. But if we all are committed and understanding that the Black community affects our economics, and so it matters to all of us, if they make it, if they succeed, and if they're successful, we've got to be able to convey the point that we need the Black community businesses to be successful. In order for us to survive, we need them to survive. And oftentimes it's almost said as if they're expendable. So Black businesses, they can do what they want to do as long as we get ours over here, and it has to be cross-functional. So.
Young people in the Black community are some of the most innovative and inspired people when it comes to using social media and using the new media, and yet trying to get them to figure out that it's not just fun and games out here. Like, the skills you have and the following you have can be converted into revenue if you just do a couple of things. Moving forward in this new market and this new technology, how do we start to train young people to not just think about fun and games on the internet, but using the skills you have to actually gain and build a business?
You know, it's funny that you say that, because sometimes they're so good they can be intimidating, because they've just mastered it all. But I really think that is evolving naturally, and I think the biggest thing we've got to do is teach them how to turn it into a positive good. I think I've been exposed to videos where they're showing me these people that have bought houses just based on how many likes they've been able to attract on YouTube and how many watches they get. So I think that part our young people get. I think the part that's missing, though, is how they can take on and study tools and habits for themselves. You know, how do I become the person who they're watching me play the video game as opposed to me watching them play the video game?
There's, of course, been a history of neglect and exclusion in regards to vocational training, joining the guilds, joining the unions, these professionals, plumbers, carpenters, these hands-on skills that we're always going to need to build things. We're always going to need to fix things. These are good paying jobs that can last a lifetime. And yet getting young black kids into these programs where they can, they can be up under somebody and learn the skills and be in a union. It seems these unions have closed them out, and vocational training has been a forgotten thing. Everybody's supposed to go to a four-year college and get a degree. Well, it's like, well, many of us are not just going to do that. That doesn't mean we're going to starve for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with that. I think, however, there used to be a time where we were pointing people in the direction of getting a 2-year degree, and that's all you needed. And then we progressed to pushing people towards that 4-year degree. Then we pushed them to the master's and so on and so forth. And now we're trying to head back in the other direction and say, hey, but we forgot about this. We got to go back and pick this up. But we do have to make certain that the conversation is not either or, it's both and. You can still get the education, but get the education in the trade spaces. Go through the journeyman programs. Go to the technical schools even, and learn all that you can, because our trade industry is aging out, and we've got to close that gap. So many people are retirement age right now, or for health reasons, they are on their way out of the trade system, and we've got to be able to fill that funnel. And so that we've got to make certain that that conversation is happening and starting at the middle schools even. We've got to make certain. I was talking to someone that's in diversity at one of our utility companies at how we need to start making certain that when we're helping kids be able to talk through for career day, what opportunities they want to grow up to, we've got to start bringing in speakers that are more diverse in terms of those skill sets so that we can start looking differently. People don't recognize that our sewer companies have some very high paying positions for those that are willing to go dig the trenches so that they can lay the pipes and all of that. But it has to be a conversation that starts early on, and it has to be a both and, so we can say you might want the formal education, but get formal education in the technical side, and then go out so that you can study up under somebody and make great money. $25, $50 an hour for you to do that work is great money where you can actually live the life you want to live, but it's a conversation worth having. And you can create a business. You can be an entrepreneur with those skill sets and let companies hire you. So there's opportunity. We just got to make sure we're having the conversations.
Absolutely. And, I've had a conversation over the years, a couple of years back, with a contractor who's doing work in the solar industry. And they were approached and got a part of a program where they had young Black kids from different schools, what have you, that they would bring into the program and try to bring them in, teach them the skills to join the solar project and try to work things out. And there wasn't a lot of success, and the contractor, the private partner, was a white-owned company, and the guy basically was saying to me, like, "You're sending me kids that are unprepared. They don't have the math skills. They don't have what we have you. So I'm going to abandon this effort altogether, and we don't see them again." Is there some way that we can try and encourage people to just stick with it, and we can fix the problems, but just sending a basket full of young people who may or may not be interested in the trade or may not have the skill set based on what's going on in our public school system, you're setting them up for failure, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I think also we there has to be a patience and understanding. It's just like COVID-19 is causing us to move school online, and so many students are ill prepared for that, just based on the tools that they may or may not have at home to do so, or the fact that they may not. I sit on a council for our county where we're trying to make certain that we break down the digital divide so that every home has internet access, adequate internet access, even not just internet access, but adequate. And then we got to make sure that the kids actually have computers, because so many times people are using their phones and we can't do a whole school year on a phone. And so I think that at the tables where these decisions are being made, we've got to start having those conversations so that we change with the tide. And so now is a time where you do have to be patient, expose those kids. It may be one in some time, but that is a give back that we've got to be able to reach back and pull some with us. Because if a kid gets lit with excitement at the possibilities that they can do and they see people like them in the roles, then there's no telling how those cylinders will fire, and they'll go become a different kid to go after and pursuing that. And so I think that there are businesses out here in your point, George, while we are having to put our kids on at home schooling, perhaps we do some online career exposures. We can have career day on site, but we can have businesses call teachers and say, "Hey, I'm willing to do a Zoom call with your classroom so we could expose them." It's easier now. Now you can do it from the site, show all the toys, all of that. But that's the thinking outside the box that we have to do so that we can keep up with the time and bring our kids along with us.
And Vita, we have to hold some of these private partners also accountable for the quality of the exposure that they're giving our kids. I've seen examples of private partners who bring in kids, and okay, I have 3 or 4 Black kids in the building today. They're moving copier paper from here to here, but there's not an executive talking to them about what they do. They're not actually learning anything about the business. They're just they're the help, and that's not exposure to me.
Not by any stretch. When Ferguson happened, our chamber was born out of Ferguson. I don't know if you know that, but I was working under our then governor. And we developed some programs that were bringing students, college students actually, but we created the program around students that had a 2.5 and above, because most often those types of scholarly programs hit students that are 3.0, 3.5, 4.0. And we wanted to be able to reach back and bring some others along. We had businesses that wouldn't let us bring the program to them because they didn't want those. Those Ferguson kids, we didn't know. And that was really heart wrenching that they had already tagged these identity to the kids, the students, without having an idea as to who they were. And these kids have gone on to do, these students, these adults now, have gone on to do some phenomenal things. But we have to be intentional about breaking down those barriers as well. And those are the hard conversations we have to have right now, openly and transparently, so that we kind of decriminalize the word Black. We decriminalize children that come from low to moderate income families and neighborhoods. And we talk through those fears that typically cause people to behave that way.
Well, Vita, I don't want to just be all gloom and doom, but this is the nature of what we're talking about today. But one of the terms that is really important that I keep repeating as a mantra to myself with what's going on right now is we are at a reset point, politically, socially, across the nation, across the world. This is a reset, and a reset, particularly when we're talking about entrepreneurs and what have you, this is a moment in time to jump in with innovation, to jump in with new ideas. And what kind of things can you say to inspire young Black entrepreneurs right now? It's not, like, now is the time to hit the ground running. It seems desperate, but honestly, if you can come up with something that works in this reality, you're going to make it.
You said doom and gloom. Actually, it is encouraging, because if you look at how diamonds are born out of the most pressure-filled situation, it takes you having to push that diamond through that coal for it to blossom into this great creation. We're in that moment. And because we're in that moment, we get to be really intentional. And being intentional, we get to think wilder than we've ever thought before, be more creative than we've ever created before. We've been busy trying to help show our businesses how to retool. This is the path that you might have been on, but there are two things that we can do. We can focus on how to get you some money today, but we can also be focused on how to retool you so that 4 months down the line, 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line, there's some new opportunities you're going after. The easiest example I always give is if you got somebody who's been a landscaper, but they've never retooled to take that same truck that pulls the lawnmowers during the summer, put a shovel on it during the winter, and now you can actually go out and shovel snow. And so the cool thing about Black business owners is Black people are extremely innovative, creative, and if nothing else, we've shown that we are resilient. And so if you create new partnerships that we've never created before, find new opportunities, you've got to ask, because there are people that are looking to fund new creations. We are sitting at the table causing companies to have to rethink who they're doing business with and taking more businesses for opportunities than we were before. And then we're coming back having businesses understand in 6 months, there's going to be an RFP that's coming up. You don't know this today, but get on YouTube, do all the tooling that you've got to do to be ready. So when this RFP is presented, you can go after that and show yourself capable for it. And so we just got to be able to think outside the box, form new relationships, form new partnerships, so that the businesses that are most innovative will be the ones that will survive and make it through this. Recovery is going to be hard. It's going to be very hard, but it's not going to be impossible. And all of us that have a voice have to talk through corporate America, giving dollars, giving resources, and participating in how we help our Black business community to be successful. Because we got to keep in mind, People hire people like them. Black businesses are the employers of their families, they're the employers of their neighbors, the people in their neighborhood. And so it is important that they survive so that those people can continue to pay their mortgages, their car notes, paying into our school district taxes. Because if they don't and we lose those communities, it will affect all of us, not just the people living in the communities. It will affect how we attract people, major companies to come move to St. Louis or to any city. It's going to affect all of the recovery for the entire city. So it's in all of our best interest to be engaged here.
Well, you know, Vita, we're in this situation now, and of course, one of the most important things is that people like you and I need to check in on each other. As far as self-care is concerned, how are you taking care of yourself? How are you keeping standing?
Man, that's such an interesting question because working from home means that you work from morning to night and you forget. You're like, wait a minute, I've been working 10 hours. I should stop. And you forget to eat. And so I'm really starting now to be intentional to say, these are my work hours. When I close this computer, I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm going to sit outside, get some sun, take the dogs for a walk, and do those things that matter because we also have to live to tell this story, and just be able to look at our children. I got to give you an example. My baby girl likes donuts from our local grocery store, and they're not selling those anymore, because things that you have to touch, they're not advertising or they're not making available. And so she's living through what our grandparents lived through when they went through the Great Depression. And so I have to be intentional to walk her through this because she'll never forget this time. And mommy has to be that example for her. So I'm working on getting better at that, George. We all have to.
That's fantastic. Vita Jeffery, Executive Director for the Heartland St. Louis Black Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I wish you nothing but success and good luck. And if there's anything we can do for you moving forward, please stay in touch. Let's keep this contact going.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, George. And God bless and keep you.
Absolutely. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week right here on Now St. Louis.